chances, can't always play it safe. Sometimes there's more to lose than innocence and saving face. Come be my great exception. Love can't be bought or sold. Don't need no diamond, honey. All that glitters isn't gold. All that glitters isn't gold. All that glitters, glitters, glitters. One time for the money, two times for the love, three times for the beauty. These are the things that dreams are made of. One time for my body, two times for my soul, three times for my honey. All that glitters isn't gold. Chemistry goes together like you and me. Don't cost nothing, but love ain't cheap. Listen, baby, shivers my spine. Oh my, oh my. So I fell to the bottom, but I reached the top. I had everything and I lost it all. Life is crazy, love me, baby, with all you got. I swam with the devils till I faced my fears. Sailed through an ocean that was filled with tears. Life is crazy, love me, baby, with all you got. One time, two times, two times, three times, three times. All that glitters isn't gold. One time for the money, two times for the love, three times for the beauty. These are the things that dreams are made of. One time for my body, two times for my soul, three times for my honey. All that glitters isn't gold.
Just love the lust, you'll have the leap without the fall. Your best friend asks if I am straight or gay. I can understand the question when I dance this way. Straight, I said, he said that's okay. Some other little something might be coming your way. A little while later and up you slide. Sipping on your drink and making moves at my side. I've got to impress her with my mating routine. Show her something no New Yorker will have ever seen. So I pull out the peacock knees of surprise. She laughs and tells me that I sprayed sweat in her eyes. I apologize, stand still on the spot. She puts her hand on my back and says, wow, you're hot. You turn me on, you turn me on. You turn me on, you turn me on, you turn me on, you turn me on, you turn me on. You turn me on, you turn me on, you turn me on, you turn me on. It's as clear as the ice melting in my glass. There was no need for questions to be asked. Skip the how'd you do's, what you do's, political views. You've heard the news, the oh my god, it's different here. You have to tip with every bit. It's clear, so little time to waste. Make the move, haste post haste. This is lust at first sight. Let's knock at the night till it retreats to light. I'm in New York making out in the back of a cab, and she's giving me her body to taste, touch and grab. I'm fulfilling a cliche, ticking a box. Big apple, yellow cab and an American fox. The city gliding past us block by block. I never ever ever want this cliche to stop. Knowing that skyscrapers rise above, I could have sworn I felt a crazy little surge of love. The love of lust, directed at you. Do you feel the same way too? Please tell me that you do. And we can love lust the whole night through. They say it's better to have loved and lust than never loved at all. Just love the lust, you'll have the leap without the fall. They say it's better to have loved and lust than never loved at all. Just love the lust, you'll have the leap without the fall. They say it's better to have loved and lust than never loved the toll. Just love the lust, you love the leap without the fall. They say it's better to have loved and lost than never loved at all. Just love the lust, you love the leap without the fall. Turn me on, you 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 turn me on.
Welcome making the work. Sporadic finally making some inroads here on behalf of.
Absolutely gets in the back. Shadows.
Oh my
Oh,
god. Hello?
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 Uh-oh.
Hello?
Blur? Hello?
I don't think there's time. They're not gonna get back in touch. Somebody's noticed. No.
33% to a bomb, but BD are sitting with 3 ultimates, 4 ultimates of their own. This next fight.
They can follow up a little bit of aggression. Oh, this is could be used. I think this is everybody. He does.
Of anti-nade came through, and as much as we saw, man, this is dirty. Oh
Hey,
no!
Alti, I'm popping it on everyone. Long spawns and Overwatch.
Wow.
Actually, it looks like look at Killer Talks. Oh my god! What was the triple? Could that be the difference? He's coming out. Jeremy, try and take up the difference. Let's get it. Oh, here's a tip. To some more Pride Cup action. We've got a doozy for you coming up, hopefully, fingers crossed. We've got a fun game, but before we get there, my name, of course, is Sun Phoenix, and I'm joined once again. Welcome back to Blur.
Hello. Really keen to be casting this match with you tonight. It's going to be a really big one as well.
Yeah, I think it should be a lot of fun. So we got some stakes here finally. We're finally deep enough into the tournament that we have some sense of how these teams match up to each other and, you know, getting a sense of who the strongest teams are. This is a Group B matchup, and Group B is hotting up. We've got 2 teams for you here now. We've got Need for Feed, XX underscore Need for Feed underscore XX versus Prideful Shifters. Blur, these are the 2 top teams in the group, aren't they?
Yeah, these 2 teams have both played 1-2 matches so far. I think they still have 2 matches tonight. Well, Prideful Shifters definitely do because we see them later as well. But the winner of this game, am I lagging? I do believe I'm lagging.
Yes, very laggy.
My ping is 3,800.
Oh, that's a little bit concerning. So
That is
let me run through. I'll run through the the stakes quickly. So, like I mentioned, these are the 2 top teams. Need for Feed, top of the leg right now, 2-0 so far, and Prideful Shifters as well, also standing at 2-0. So these 2 teams are undefeated. They are gonna tank their first loss. So one of them is gonna take their first loss, and the winner of this game is guaranteed, I think, to qualify for the semi-finals. So the stakes are pretty high. Losers of this team will have to be concerned themselves with how the Grant Hindenburgs do, because they've got a little bit to fight for that second slot. So you really do want to win this game first up. Now I'll start introducing the first team here. Need for Feed, as I mentioned, XX underscore Need for Feed X underscore XX. Very important to get the name right and in full. Cena and Knoppis will be our tanks. Cena, of course, from Cubs. Knoppis from Rage Quit Odyssey. I don't think he's one of the main roster guys. Name I don't recognize, but he is on that squad. Go Outside, of course, we saw a lot of him last week, or the last week of the 80K Overwatch tournament stage 1 for Overclocked Esports, formerly known as 2XS, and Cerulean Wolf, also from Overclocked Esports. He's the coach though, and they'll both be on the DPS. And for the support, we've got Evo Wallace and Layden Smiley, 2 very strong players on the respective teams. This is quite a balanced lineup, but kind of standouts at the top and at the bottom. So should be an interesting team to see play, and of course their success so far has been quite stellar. Looking at the second team, Blur, are you with me?
Yeah, I am with you now. We're actually getting a little bit of an Odyssey look towards the second team now. We've got Pretz and Trigger Happy lining up on the tank duo together. 2 very well-known tanks within the local scene and 2 very consistent tanks there as well. Lord of Terran, the 3rd Odyssey player on that team. He's previously of Kintsugi, WRG, and Evo before that. So another really experienced head in the team that should be seeing look out of on the projectile DPS. Then Fluffy, the 4th RQ Odyssey player coming through, now as a sub for Alibi, who's unfortunately having internet issues, which I know very well about, again.
Yeah, I can tell.
This is horrible.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It was fine 2 seconds ago. It's so sad. It's as soon as we started broadcast, it all fell apart.
But yeah, Fluffy as well has subbed for Need for Feed in this tournament as well. So it's a little bit of betrayal story in this game as well. And then EQ, ZA on the second support there, and Little Clumsy the second DPS. They're both coming in from Overclock.
All right, so those are our two teams. Should be a really awesome matchup here. Wallace is 420, by the way. So when you see that in game, that's who that is. So our first map looks like it's going to be a Lijiang Tower. Blur, how do you feel about this map? Oh, have we lost him? I think we lost him.
Lijiang Tower, very tactically diverse map. Have you lost me? Am I here?
I think you're here. This
I
is
think
very
I'm here.
delayed.
Very, very tactically diverse map here that we're going to see coming out. A little bit of brawl, a little bit of dive, a little bit of bunker. We could see a little bit of everything coming out on this map. Or we could see teams lean very hard onto strategies they're comfortable with. So, something I think we'll see both teams now with a little bit of time to settle in. We're going to see very distinct playstyles out of the two of them. You know, we've seen some very good brawl and some very good dive out of Prideful Shifters, and I think, you know, we'll probably see quite a bit more of that going forward now. And on the side of Need for Feed, could see a little bit of everything. We don't really, you know, we haven't seen a lot of them on stream yet, so, you know, we could see a little of everything coming out of them as well. We obviously know the 420 and Smiley both, you know, quite strong Lucios in their own right, so there'll be a little bit of a toss-up there to see who plays that. But, you know, it should be a nice clash to see whether Need for Feed can play against some strategies that we know we'll probably see out of Prideful Shifters and some synergies we know we're probably going to see out of them as well.
Yeah, we haven't actually seen either of these teams on stream, and it segues nicely this game into our next game as well, where we'll see Prideful Shifters actually take on the Grant Hindenburg. So could end up being a very important matchup because, like I say, the Grant Hindenburg's currently in third place, and that'll be our first opportunity to see a team more than one. So did you sub for one of these teams, Blur? Because I know.
Oh yeah, I subbed for a match with the Prideful Shifters before. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
cool. You've got some insight into their style of play.
Yeah, so I keep cutting, I'm sorry. But yeah, I subbed for them earlier, and I only got one map with them until before their power went out. They played a little bit of dive and a little bit of brawl on Busan, and no, until my power went out, I was just awful. Even before my internet decided it did not like me anymore.
Okay, sorry, we're just trying to like tech solve here in the background as well while we're getting this all going. So, Need for Feed, like I say, at the top of the log, Prideful Shifters as well. Really exciting matchup. We've had some other matches going on as well, and we have other matches going on. We're just waiting for the teams to get all set up in the lobby, and we will jump into game in but a moment, I think. But yeah, we've had some other games going on in the since the last time I saw you guys. Now, last on stream, obviously, you guys just saw, who was it? Lunatic Hello versus?
Was
Daddy's
Lunatic
Home.
Hello versus Daddy's Home.
Yes, so that was a 3 Lunatic Hello. You have Rebellious Teabaggers featuring Like a Luke and Co. 3-0 against Angang, who we, of course, saw yesterday, Blur. Crocs without socks, yes, Crocs without socks. It says Crocs without Crocs there. Crocs without socks, dropping down 3-0 to Need for Feed, who we're going to look at now. And Prideful Shifters in their last matchup took down Hammers Kill 3-0. And now I had the pleasure of seeing Hammers Kill earlier today against Crocs without socks, and they looked extremely dominant against Crocs without socks. So gonna see how they match up here. You know, Need for Speed, yo, that's gonna happen a lot. Need for Feed actually 3-0'd them in turn. So on paper, if you look at those dynamics, it should be a pretty strong outcome. These Need for Feed at least looking really strong.
But the nature of one of these tournaments, however, is that the individual strengths and weaknesses of these teams mean that there's so many different little interactions that'll go on in game that we can't really judge consistency on results. You know, something that the team was able to exploit may not be exploitable in the other situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are jumping now into Lijiang Tower. We're gonna get a look at what our first map is. It's going to be Gardens, Blur. So what are you expecting to see on this map?
I'm expecting to see, at least from the side of Odyssey, or Odyssey, at least from the side of Prideful Shifters,
That's
I'm
also
expecting
going
to
to
see,
happen a lot.
at least from the side of Prideful Shifters, I am expecting to see quite a bit of dive coming out in this round. I would be very surprised if they're not running a dive, probably a Pharaoh with that as well, probably a Genji as well. And from the side of the Need for Feed, I would be surprised if we don't see a Lucio, and there it is, 420 coming out on that Lucio, which we know him very, very well for, very, very well for his backline antics on that Lucio.
Yeah,
He's on the Wrecking Ball as well, so they're going to be playing quite a hard commitment dive with that Moira and that Wrecking Ball play style there.
Mm-hmm.
It seems a pretty good set.
Very mobile composition. Okay, interesting choice. Very interesting choice. This is a map that makes a lot of sense to run that Lucio, and I think one of the big player hero combinations is Wallace on that Lucio, so that's very surprising to see. But he clearly feels that he's going to be able to provide more value to his team with the Brigade as the teams close in here. Okay. Some decision making going on here. The Pharaoh, okay, yeah, deciding he's going to go on the Mercy. A bit of a miscommunication there, I think, coming out of the door as the team fight is going on point. In fact, Knoppi's already hit the deck, so there were 2 players down, and they still got the initial pick on the side of Prideful Shifters. Little Clumsy dropping low. He does get the stun, but he misses the headshot. It looked pretty good to me, but I guess it was just a tiny bit off, but it doesn't seem to matter as Prideful Shifters gonna be securing themselves potentially a teamfight win on the point here. Oh, Knoppi's gonna find a way off the map. We didn't quite catch that one, but unfortunately we did see it in the kill feed. No assistance required, unforced errors, and Prideful Shifters gonna switch the point back here with that kill onto guard side and cap themselves their first point.
And I think from the side of Prideful Shifters here, you're seeing a little bit more consistency in the dive. The tanks used to playing with each other, know how to dive in together, know how to follow up. Tara, very easy to follow up on that dive with, because she can just spam wherever they go. So a little bit of a cleaner engagement from them, and Need for Feed running a very synergistically, you have to be playing that very together to actually get value out of it, and they got split up very easily, and the McCree died early, which means the Pharaoh just had more space. They weren't able to get proper follow-up onto the backline of Prideful Shifters, and coming in here now, they're going to have to try and fix those issues.
They are indeed. Knoppi's going to swing around on the ball, goes on through, gets quite low, but can use those adapted shields to keep himself healthy, and even goes through to secure the kill onto Pretz's Winston. They do drop a couple in the meanwhile, though. The rocket barrage committed there by Lord of Terrans, aka Terran Lord, and that's probably going to secure Prideful Shifters the teamfight victory. Oh, Lord of Terrans finding Cerulean Wolf before he can do any harm to the pesky Diva. Trigger Happy going to get away with murder there.
There's also a little bit of a difference in the playstyle of Little Clumsy and Cerulean Wolf right now. Cerulean Wolf playing a lot more defensive than Little Clumsy would be, partially because the Wrecking Ball is a way more aggressive main tank, but also because if he dies, then they have nothing to kind of poke out this Pharaoh other than their Diva. Whereas if Little Clumsy dies, it's more of a disposable pick for the side of Prideful Shifters. So, they maybe have to find a way to put more resources into Lord of Terrans without really compromising their engagement here.
Yeah, against Lord of Terrans for sure. Let's see if they manage to do that press. Dropping low here, but he's safe on point. Smiley this time in solidarity with Knoppi's gonna yeet herself off the map. Because why not? Don't need to win this map or anything. Knoppi's commits the mines here. He doesn't seem to find anything, and it's not even in that great of a position when it comes to zoning, because that's where his own team comes from. Trigger Happy, though, finds a kill with the self-destruct. Can they find anything more? Do they need anything more? There's Deadeye just for fun, just to reload, basically. That Coalescence doing a little bit of work, but dropping super low, and yeah, just already in the kill feed. Prideful Shifters so far looking the much better of these two teams today.
And I think more than just the expected synergy we're seeing from these teams, I think we're seeing a lot of unforced errors coming out of Need for Feed. Two people dropping off the map there. Two important aspects of the team composition: your Wrecking Ball, which is your engagement, and your Moira, that is your flex support, your main healing output. Both dropping off the map in separate circumstances means that it's really, really difficult for your team to then go on and win that fight.
Yeah.
So in the coming rounds here, we're hopefully going to be seeing a little bit more consistency from these teams, a little bit more of a little bit cleaner engagements, and we'll see from there whether they can turn this around for their team.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Compositionally here, we're on that brawl composition that we expect to see. We see Go Outside on the Junkrat, quite a popular pick on this map, but not always run, so nice to see him getting some play time. Little Clumsy, though, going to be running that May. So DPS wise, these teams have different philosophies, support wise as well. That Brigitte still seeing a bit of play here out of 420 as the teams now barrel towards each other. This Junkrat in this position, you can get so much value, but he's also going to charge up the enemy Zarya, who just turned into a Junkrat in her own right in a lot of ways. Knoppy's dropping down to half HP, going to back up just a little bit here. Cerulean Wolf looks to take a flanking angle just a little bit. Not able to find that much damage though just yet, and the positioning so much better for Prideful Shifters. They get the cap, and now and now Need for Speed. I'm just gonna call him Need for Speed. Now Need for Speed on the clock as the point starts to tick up in favor of Prideful Shifters. They do get the pick onto Cerulean Wolf, but the return kill from Guard's side might be exactly what Need for Speed need. Oh, this Shadow looks good, but it doesn't actually find anything. In fact, he goes down. Krumpy's gonna get the return kill on the enemy Reinhardt. The Guard side does have the Riptide available should he choose to commit it, but I don't think they're going to need it. They're pushing Prideful Shifters back here, and that kill onto Lord of Terrans might just seal the deal. It's just 2 left on point. 1 goes down. It's just that pesky Lucio, but you've got to kill him, and they do just that. 420 going to take his head out with the whip shot, and gets another one for free. Pretz going down. The point will be flipped, but unfortunately, the point will be flipped, and unfortunately though, 44% up for Prideful Shifters.
I think that team fight was a perfect examination of how these two comps really interact with one another. The McCree and Junkrat style comp really relying a lot more on how long they can take the fight out and poking down the team over time, whereas the Mei and Reaper are way more aggressive and way easier to take space directly with, but far harder to hold it for a long period with.
Bubble just committed a little bit early for Trigger Happy there, so he does end up going down. A lot of Terrans, though, does find a return kill in the form of Godside. He tracked him down during the Riptide and made short work of him. Cerulean Wolf does have the Deadeye, chooses to commit it now. There's a Blizzard as well. He actually finds the Mei. I'm not even quite sure where the Mei was that he hit that angle, but he's going to be happy with that. The Shadow, though, interrupting the Coalescent Smiley. Going to hit the deck, but won't be taken down as Peter gets nice and aggressive onto the enemy Reinhardt here. Pretz, though, speak about aggression, charging all the way on through, and now he's got a Graviton Surge that he can work into, but he is taken down in the meanwhile. The Death Blossom, though, that might just be what they need to secure the kill, but no, taken down in short order by Cerulean Wolf. The red team, though, Prideful Shifters, they're the ones with the numbers, and that anti-heal gonna force Knumpis back towards his spawn. Cerulean Wolf going down is gonna mean that Prideful Shifters gonna be able to restabilize here. 58% on the clock, though, for Need for Feed.
And it's a little bit of a messy fight from the side of Prideful Shifters there, committing a lot of ults, so the retake might be quite easy for the side of Need for Feed here, coming in with a couple of ults nearly online.
Yeah, one of the most important ults is actually the sound barrier. Fluffy might be exactly what his team needs to keep themselves alive. Your charge comes through, counter charge, this stun, 420 off into the distance. Not even sure how that happened. Great shot from Cerulean Wolf, gonna get rid of that pesky Lucio, and in fact picks up a follow-up with the stun and some help from his main tank brother. Now they're moving forward, 2 picks up in this team fight. Can they find anything more? Cerulean Wolf going Bam here, getting so many picks in this team fight. Nobody on Prideful Shifters dealing with him, but they're going to be okay with that. All the way up to pretty much 100% and a couple of team fights to take still.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that fight, they had the Deadeye, they had the Rally coming in, then they had the Coalescence in the late stage of the fight. So it was something you'd probably expect them to win, but now coming in for Prideful Shifters, they have that Mei ult, they have the Blizzard, the Nano Boost, and the Sound Barrier. That strong defensive ult can also enable us very strong engage. So will they be able to hold out against this really overwhelming pressure?
And you see immediately a double pick on the front line there. Smiley going down, Kloppy's going down. Go outside though with the return pick onto Trigger Happy. He was closing in on his ulti, so that could be quite an impactful pick. 420 though, so low and anti-healed. He doesn't end up going down though. He does eventually, but Cerulean Wolf not being dealt with once again, putting the damage out there. Gets rid of Fluffy, gets rid of 3 in this team fight. Cerulean Wolf putting the team on his back and putting his name out there as somebody who then needs to be dealt with by Prideful Shifters. The point will start to tick down. We are in overtime here. That Deadeye, can he find anything? They have to hide in there. Being eaten up by the rest of the team. He finds a pick. He finds Fluffy, the perfect hero to kill with that Deadeye. Not something you want to have messing around on the point in this overtime situation. Go outside, finds the last pick onto Lord of Terrans, and Prideful Shifters going to be bringing this one back to a 1-1.
And it's a difficult situation to be in if you're Prideful Shifters here, because they get the early engagement picks in both of the fights that they try to retake the point, but their cleanup is so poor and so slow that the side of Need for Feed are able to get back to point and fight very aggressively to try and keep their point. And it turns out between Cerulean Wolf and Knoppies they're able to stall it out, able to get that damage out and get those picks out, and eventually swap the fight in their favor. So from the side of Prideful Shifters, you're maybe thinking, let's slow it down a little bit. You know, we we have this aggression. Once we have the advantage in the fight, let's just make sure we have clarity and we have focus, and we try and win that way. Because at the moment, this just isn't quite it.
Yeah, clarity, focus, and discipline, all very key aspects to a well-functioning Overwatch team. We do see Symmetra here out of Lord of Terrans. He's going to be looking to TP his team onto the point straight away. They do just that, and they get set up. But a very quick rollout from Need for Speed here. They're already on the point and ready to go, and look at how highly mobile their composition is, but they're not dealing with the Symmetra, and the damage coming out is insane. EQZA gets the first pick, and Cena's mech drops as well. The Baby Diva soon to follow that boop though. EQZA, goodbye friend. Knoppies with the double boop, but it's not going to be enough to secure his team the first point cap. Prideful Shifters now in control of the point as it ticks up, and I think Need for Feed have to back out here and think about a reapproach.
A very stylistically strange decision from the side of Need for Feed there to take point as this very aggressive dive.
Yeah.
I would be them to kind of like set up to engage after controlling space, but they took the point first, and once the heavy brawl Symmetra kind of death ball came into point, they really struggled to keep that space. And despite Knoppies getting a really nice double there, the engine of the Symmetra was just able to tick up and get the team going in that fight.
Yeah, engine is such a good way of putting it. Just gets that value over time and just mows the rest of the team down. That said, though, they have lost a hero here, Prideful Shifters, or Photon Barrier committed. There's a lamp on top of them as well. These heroes are not dying, and yeah, Need for Feed. So many players gonna hit the deck there in a matter of moments. Talk to me about this Brigitte, though, 420, favoring that hero. How do you feel about how it works again in this lineup?
Well, against, you know, in general, your Brigitte decision would be to add a little bit of more aggression to your tanks, because they don't have to worry so much about peeling for their backline. You know, they can expect that their Ana generally on the backline will be covered. But in this composition, it's just something that really gets zoned out in the early to mid fight, because he's not really able to engage into the Symmetra turrets and the Mei, which, you know, means he can't get that value. He can't proc his Inspire.
Speaking of value, this Blizzard looks pretty good. Finds so many. Yep, they're all going to hit the deck as well. Go outside, hitting the deck in turn. And it looks like Prideful Shifters so far on Night Market have just been unstoppable.
Yeah, so far it just looks like they're in complete control. Such great ult discipline so far. They've still got the Shadow and the Flux for the last, what would be the last fight here. And on the side of Need for Feed, with only the Rally online and him not even necessarily being able to get to points, it might be tough to actually even engage this. But what a knock off the map from Cerulean Wolf there leading into this fight.
Yeah, and great work to get back on the map. Looked like he was going to pull a Pretz there and just yeet himself off the map. But no, he has control. Unfortunately, though, his team is not in control. Ult's committed here for both teams, but at the end of the day, this self-destruct, even if it kills all 6, they will still lose the map because they've got nobody in the area. So it will be Prideful Shifters taking the first map here in this match.
Yeah, and, you know, they had a very good clarity of concepts for that third map there. The only thing I was a little bit unsure of in that composition itself was the Moira a little bit, because not having that speed means you do have the chance of getting to points a little bit late. But, you know, despite that, they had such great clarity of how they wanted to engage the fight, how they wanted to set up, which ults they wanted to use, and how they wanted to play against what was, in the end of the day, a really good comp for the side of Prideful Shifters to play against. And that was really the difference. Whereas, you know, you talked about the Brigitte, but, you know, also the Tracer and the Doomfist not really able to get into the fight so cleanly. The Wrecking Ball not able to really have that disruption when the team's just trying to turtle on point anyway. And, you know, it was maybe something you needed a little bit of a reconsideration about going into map 2.
Yeah, especially into the Symmetra turrets on the point, like you say. I think the Doomfist and the Tracer struggling to get a lot of value, and Prideful Shifters were doing a really good job of covering all the various angles that they could be initiated on from. So well played to Prideful Shifters. Do you think the fact that 60% of this team is on the same team makes a big difference?
A little,
It's showing,
like it
let's
does
put it
a bit. It does, like, but 3 of them were already on this team, and Fluffy will be coming into what is something of a different team dynamic to what Odyssey would be. I'm sure the little bit of team synergy that these players do have with each other from a team perspective is assisting that. But at the end of the day, it is a different environment. It is different players, and it's not quite the same strategies they would be playing in their normal team space anyway.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
there's only so much that they could be kind of impacted by this, and I would expect that there is something of a synergy between these players existing, but at the same time, a lot of Need for Feed's failings in that match were less about
synergy.
Yeah, it was less about synergy and more about the fact that there was a lot of unforced errors, and there were a lot of like strange macro decisions that didn't need to be made on the side of Need for Feed that really cost them in the long run. There was a position where they put themselves in inopportune situations to retake fights, and really just lacked that clarity of what they were trying to accomplish, which is more in my opinion of a game understanding issue than it is of a synergy issue. And it's just we made some mistakes. We didn't read what we were supposed to be, what we were playing against properly, and the kind of macro of those team fights properly. Because in that just looking at that Night Market game, for example, you'd expect them to be they're playing a lot smarter against that Symmetrist comp. You need to play a little bit slower, force her into positions she doesn't want to be fighting, play from multiple angles, and they never got into those positions, and it showed by the end of that match where they weren't able to establish control of point.
Yeah, it did show. So looking at our next map, Blur, it is going to be King's Row. Now, they might not be comfortable playing with each other, but they'll all be comfortable playing on this map, the most popular map in South Africa by a country mile, and one we all love watching. So who do you think is going to be favored on this map based on the tiny bit we've seen so far?
Well, from what we've seen so far, we've seen that Need for Feed were quite strong on that role comp. They did win out that Lijiang Control Center map. And I think, it's going to be a stylistic clash here. Do we see the teams lean into a little bit of bunker, a little bit of high ground control, which is quite strong on King's Row A especially? Or do we see them lean into this classic King's Row, let's run 2 Reinhardts into the ground and see what we can gain out of that? And, I know which one I'd prefer to see, but, at the end of the day, these teams are trying to win. So, it might be a little bit of a stylistic clash. We might be seeing from the sides that they're going to be running 2 Reinhardts into each other, actually.
So far, it looks that way, but they are running the Sigma, so the dynamic is quite different on Prideful Shifters.
Yeah, so from the side of Prideful Shifters, running the Sigma allows them to play a little bit split, allows them to turtle a little bit, and play a little bit slower, get alternate angles, poke out a little bit differently, which might give them a little bit of a long advantage in the longer team fights. But if you're looking at the side of Need for Feed, they're running the Zaya, something that enables you to play very risky plays and get that little bit of that couple of extra seconds you might need to escape or might need to get that pick. The DPS choice is a little bit confusing for me. They're running the Genji and the Widowmaker. The Widowmaker far more poke intensive than Genji. It's a feast or famine DPS. He's going to be very good or he's going to be very bad, and there's almost no exception to that.
Both
The supports kind of feed into that. It's like, you're playing without a defensive ult and you're playing with this kind of commitment to getting a DPS value. And whether they get those picks or not really determines whether the comp will be, worthwhile in this position.
Taking a nap here, Cena, his team going to keep him all healthy here. Cerulean Wolf dropping quite low. Feast of Famine is a great way to put it, though. Both Widowmaker and Genji have the high potential to get a lot of value and high potential to get absolutely no value. So far, it's looking like a little bit of the former. Alt Charge not looking great for either of these two, and in fact, they've lost a few teammates as they've moved on through. So, yeah, Need for Feed going to have to go back to spawn and think about whether they want to change things up or if they're just going to keep approaching like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the impact we saw in that team fight, is that despite these DPS, they got 50% and 60% of their ultimates respectively, their team got really no value from them because there's no picks, there was no kind of split pressure. It really just put them in a position that was difficult for their tanks to fight in, and their tanks got really outplayed on the point because they just didn't have that support of a Mei, of a Torbjorn, that are very consistent, very regular delivery.
Ambitious shadow from Pretz there, straight into the shield. No hope in hell of getting anything. And in fact, it's God's side who's getting the kills, but Trigger Happy going to take care of him. It's not really the kind of position you want to be in if you're God's side. Well, finally, the DPS of Need for Feed actually contributing quite significantly here. Cerulean Wolf does have his ultimate now, should he choose to commit it. Lil Clumsy coming back from spawn. She did drop earlier in the fight. He did drop earlier in the fight, sorry. That shadow as well. Tough to get value when you're fighting into the double shield, and not hitting anything with that on that occasion is Knoppies. But they're moving forward now. High charge on the Zarya, putting the damage through, and on the flank, go outside. Why are you here? Go to the other side. You're making your life so hard, taking the tiniest angles, but it seems like, hey, he gets a great shot on Terran, and Cerulean Wolf with this ulti actually going to pick off EQZA once again. So Need for Feed, feast or famine, and in this case, it was all feast.
That's, we're seeing a little bit of that inconsistency from this comp here. When Cerulean Wolf and Go Outside are able to get into position and get picks, they're very useful, but you would expect more of that to become a Trigger Happy relationship here, where they're playing very safe tanks. Whereas on the other side, on the side of Need for Feed, they're playing very dangerous tanks and very conservative or poke-related DPS. This is a weird interaction between the two components. Doesn't really track, even though they are winning the fight, which means that their fight win. Although they do get it in the end of the day, it's very slow and takes a lot of time to really get the value out of.
Yeah, we spoke yesterday about Angang losing slowly, and we could be seeing more out of Prideful shifters here, and it makes a big difference. In fact, 3 minutes on the clock though, but they have stuffed Need for Feed up here in the choke. Blizzard 4 Clumsy available, or 5 ultis available for Prideful shifters, so they're looking pretty good as they come in, as EQZA moves in from spawn. The Blizzard committed here for Prideful shifters, seems like it catches a lot. They commit the grab, but it's eaten by Trigger Happy. Beautiful play from the Blue Sigma as he totally mitigates the enemy Graviton Surge, and now turn back to deal with that straggler in the backline, Knoppies. And now there's a Genji in the backline. Go outside though, he's still milling about. He gets that pick on Little Clumsy, no mercy on Prideful Shifter, so it's going to be a long run back from spawn, and that might provide them with the space they need, assuming he doesn't go down here, and he won't do that. So yeah, Prideful Shifter's committed a decent amount to that fight.
Yeah, it's a strange interaction for me. It's very strange to see these two teams coming in, and effectively one team with the aggressive tanks playing super defensively, and one team with the defensive tanks playing, up in their faces because they have the advantage and ability to do that.
Yeah, very strange, but in this case, it's the raid team, it's Need for Feed getting nice and aggressive, but there are kills going in both directions. Could the difference maker be Pretz here? We've seen him do magical things on his Reinhardt, and it looks like we're going to see it once again. If he gets his kill, he might have just secured the team fight for his team. So after a pretty bad start, Pretz, the man of the hour, going to secure the team fight for Prideful Shifters.
And I think we're seeing from Prideful Shifters here, that team fight, that stabilization, a really, really nice asset for them there. Because it means they're coming out with a riskier comp here. They're coming out, Trigger on this Diva to shut down the Sniper, Clumsy and Terran on these DPS, which kind of take the duel with this Genji and take the backline pressure and put it onto Need for Feed here. Coming into this fight, the stylistic shift might see them establish a little bit more control than we've already seen from them.
Might do indeed. There's a shadow on point, but Knoppies is the one who hits the deck. Yeah, he got shattered by Pretz there, so a good aggressive initiation is going to allow Prideful Shifters just to clean up here. Little Clumsy picks up 2 on the front line there. Pretz, and it takes Cerulean Wolf's head off to end that one out.
And a really nice piece of awareness there from EQZA to get the sleep dart on that Reinhardt to make that shadow possible for Pretz. Go outside now, swapping off that Widowmaker, acknowledging that he's going to get too much pressure from this Diva and the 2 flanking DPS now, and deciding to switch on to McCree, where at least he has at least one chance to get it right. Whether or not we'll see that a little bit more consistent damage as well being useful to this team, we'll see. But it's logically a good switch for this.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense here. Oh, Trigger Happy does find the kill on Cerulean Wolf, but there's kills in both directions here. 2-2 is the trade, I believe. Make that 3-2. The Smiley gets rid of that pesky Tracer. Do they have enough in the tank, though? They're missing their main tank. Yeah, here he comes back from spawn, and that's going to make life quite difficult, but they do find EQZA. They take down Pretz, and that should secure them. They push through towards the second point. I wonder if we're going to be able to see them get back in here on the side of Prideful Shifters. I doubt it, but it looks like they want to maybe go for a trickle defense here and just lose slowly, like we like to talk about. Nope.
Yeah, but
just
in the end, they don't
everywhere.
end up committing to that fight, and Little Clumsy dying so late in that fight's a really, really big loss for them, because they're gonna have to give up. Oh no, go outside.
Oh, we don't need him. It's fine. Don't worry.
Getting into this enclosed space, he's just like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to be not in the space. Get me back to spawn. Get me back into the open space.
Oh, Trigger Happy finds a kill with the self-destruct there on Cena. Fellow off-tank gonna hit the deck there, and yeah, Prideful Shifters gonna take advantage of that. Of course, one of the kills was a gift, courtesy of God's side, but we won't talk about that anymore. So Prideful Shifters gonna stabilize nicely here, but there's a lot of ultis for both teams available, Blur.
Yeah, the next fight's going to be complete chaos. I imagine we're going to see the exchange of the Grav and the Transcendence, but actually we might not even need to see that, considering the early pick on EQZA.
All around from the back, Pretz with some creative plays. He cancels the Deadeye, but Gazia done enough for his team. He gets taken down, but he has secured his team a couple of kills here, but I think Need for Feed are just going to push forward now. Little Clumsy dropping down to half HP. Going aggressive with the nano boost. Good communication. He's going for the Moira, who hasn't been sound barriered. Unfortunately, a bit of miscommunication there for Need for Feed. And ends up finding a double pick. Or sorry, Cerulean Wolf now on the other side also commits the nano blade. And he finds a couple of his own. And after it's all said and done, Blur, Need for Feed are keeping the momentum going.
Yeah, and big exchange of ults in that fight, but still one online for the side of Need for Feed, and that's just the ult you want to be able to maintain your momentum, keep the picks coming, and actually puts Prideful Shifters in a position where they're not favored now to keep this point.
No, not at all. And this 420 with the Coalescence putting in the damage, getting rid of Fluffy, who is working his way up towards that Transcendence. If he gets that out, you might think that just seals the deal here for Prideful Shifters, but he won't be able to do so, at least not yet. But they need to clean up. Need for Feed do the kills on the point. Pretz finds 2 boobs off the map though. That could just seal the deal for Prideful Shifters from behind. Pretz has been making such good plays on this map so far, and he makes one more to secure his team the defense potentially, but there are heroes coming in from both sides now. This is still a mess. This is still a brawl. Nobody's game just yet, but the spawn advantage clearly favors the blue team. Can they find the kills though? Sound barrier comes out, buys space for the nano blade, or just the blade, sorry, from Cerulean Wolf, but they're dropping low. But so many kills for the red team, and despite the spawn advantage, they managed to push on through and cap that 3rd point.
And that's just, it's the finest margins there that actually end up winning Need for Feed that fight. Pretz coming in and doing a lot of work on that Wrecking Ball to just give his team the time to stabilize and get back on point. And Fluffy just being 2% off that Transcendence there, that could have absolutely cleaned up that fight for them. But you know what? The beat was online first, the blade was online first, and that was enough for Need for Feed to clean that up. No time bank here, meaning that if the side of Prideful Shifters are feeling a little bit stronger on this attack and are able to take that momentum, which they have proven they are willing to take that space quite aggressively every single team fight. You know, if we see them put together a little bit of a good attack here, they could end up in a situation where they don't leave their opponents with any time bank to try and contest the rest of this map.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're going to have to wait and see how things pan out here. Compositionally, we're seeing more of the same. I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of the tanks for the blue team Prideful Shifters, but they are running the double hit scan composition. For the other team, Knoppies and Cena are going to be running that double shield. Going to see the Junkrat out of God's side once again, and Cerulean Wolf on the McCree. So what do you think of these lineups, and how do you think they're going to face up, Blur?
I think this is a tactical acknowledgement from Need for Feed that they want to lean into this more poke-orientated playstyle where their Junkrat, their McCree can see a little bit of value, their Sigma can get a bit of value, but not taking up any of these high ground positions seems a bit dangerous when you know how likely teams are to run brawl against you on King's Row. I'm expecting very much Prideful Shifters to see this zone themselves into a position to rush them and just get straight into the backline of this team and try and cleave that way. But if the Junkrat, if the McCree can find value, then they'll be in a good position to take this fight going forward.
Yeah, the double hit scan though doesn't really lend itself to that aggressive kind of play. It's kind of a weird mix of pokey versus aggressive brawl, but looks like go outside, just going to keep the pressure on the front line here with that Junkrat. And yeah, he finds the pick, or rather Cerulean Wolf on this flanking angle. Somebody needs to deal with him. There's 2 hit scans on the other team. Why is this guy alive so far away from his team? He finds so many picks. In fact, both DPS for Need for Feed putting in the work, and they're going to secure the team wipe and a stabilization on burst point.
I'm thinking if you're on the side of Prideful Shifters right now, you're thinking maybe you need a Mei just to shape this fight a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier, and maybe a Lucio to help you just get into the team, make it a little bit easier for you to actually take this fight. But at the moment, they're leaning very hard on Lord of Terran's Ashe. Got a lot of ult charge out of that fight, and the Bob in this fight could prove absolutely dead. Like, could absolutely dismantle the side of Need for Feed if it's used properly.
Could be devastating. We'll have to wait and see. Cerulean Wolf. Oh, what the hell was that? 360 no scope on that guy. Got rid of Little Clumsy in a matter of seconds. Fan Hammer. Haven't seen that in a long time, but it does exactly what it needs to. It gets rid of the Genji in the back line and means he can focus up now on the front line. This Mercy needs to be careful. Is she inside? She is inside, but she doesn't end up going down. Cerulean Wolf here still sitting on that Deadeye, but the respawns are coming through now for Prideful Shifters. They're going to start moving forward, but go outside. Going to try and find some space to use. Oh, that shadow somehow doesn't hit the Sigma, but hits the Junkrat, and the follow-up is there. Terran Lord picks up a double. Trigger Happy contributing as well. Terran Lord, in fact, with a triple, and that's going to be a nice, clean team fight win. A little bit slow, but Prideful Shifters going to be happy with that.
And a lot of credit needs to be given to Trigger Happy on this map so far, where Prideful Shifters are concerned. When they were playing that Sniper and Genji kind of poke comp that they were running, he was playing that Sigma and trying to zone out as many sightlines as he could over time. Here, he absolutely shuts down Cerulean Wolf's ability to use that Deadeye to undermine the engagement from Prideful Shifters, and actually completely lets his team just keep their momentum and capture that point quite easily.
How did that happen? Where were those people that Fluffy died to a Junkrat mine like that?
Well, Junkrat was actually behind them in that alley.
Oh, okay, go outside with some creative plays here. But that's going to be a really good place to stop the momentum. They get to now hold up in this choke and prevent them from pushing through and gaining momentum towards second point.
Yeah, looking at this from here on in, you know, they've got that Riptire online, which is probably a free fight win if you're looking at a couple of free picks on a really nice clustered comp. Really good position to be in, unless Terran, Lord of Terran, or Little Clumsy can get a pick on that Riptire, or a good Immortality can come out. You're expecting they are able to clean up quite efficiently here.
Oh, self-destruct comes out, doesn't find anything. Godside's like, I don't need the Riptire. If I'm just gonna kill everybody with my other abilities. He's just like going for it. There he finds Fluffy. He could find the Mercy as well if he's not careful. He is taken down eventually. Lord of Terrans finally recognizing the threat that Junkrat poses. But Cerulean Wolf does have the Deadeye once again, and it looks like Need for Feed gonna hold firm here and be able to stuff this choke up just a little bit longer.
And I think that's a little bit of a mentality play there from Go Outside as well. This kind of thought process that they know I'm going for this Riptire, so they're going to be very much looking out for it. So if I act like the Riptire myself, what are they going to do? Like, how are they going to counter me?
Yeah, what if I'm the Riptire? Like, how do you counter that? Same way you counter a normal Riptire, you kill it. Oh, lots of damage eaten up there from Trigger Happy. Oh, this looks so big, but the stun from Cerulean Wolf going to prevent any value of Little Clumsy's Genji Blade. Godside taking the duel here with Terran Lord. Terran Lord's like, no, I don't want to do this, please. Get away from me. He might get the kill with the dynamite, but I think there's just enough HP there. But meanwhile, on the front line, it's all red in the kill feed, and Prideful Shifters in the backup here. Good disciplined play from them. Oh, Little Clumsy though with the BM kill, the Sonic Arrow kill. That's meant for vision. You're not meant to kill anything with that, but he knows what he's doing, and it looks like they are just gonna back out here. So Need for Feed once again holding firm.
And I joke about Go Outside's playstyle there, but I actually, in retrospect, think he's probably holding that Riptire for the Genji Blade, making sure that if the Genji blades and if he gets nanoed or has anything helping him trying to engage there, you know, they don't have a defensive ult. They're not able to counter that. So using that to actually just shut that down, even though he ends up getting picked very early into it, was actually theoretically a pretty good thought here. Now switching off the Genji and onto a double barrier, Prideful Shifters are actually looking to come out with a very poke-intensive comp and make these angles count.
Yeah, this is speaking of angles. Little Clumsy's found a great one here. The headshot onto the Orisa could be disastrous. He's dropping so low though. Does he hit it? Does he get it? Yes, he does. Go outside, finds one of the pills onto Little Clumsy, and now he just tries to teabag his way out of there. That was actually tactical teabags. He was trying to move his head around so he didn't get shot.
I think they're all tactical teabags if we're being honest. But looking at the side of Prideful Shifters here, you would be expecting them to not be too favored in that first fight there, coming in with a massive Altus parity. But coming to this next fight with the Dragon Strike and the Bob possibly coming online here, they might be trying to shift it in their favor through Ultimate's advantage.
Oh, but they're fighting into the bongos here. That's going to make life very difficult. The Deadeye comes out and finds one, but that's one of the 4 kills they got, or the 3 kills they got. More than enough for Need for Feed to hold firm once again. They've been putting up a stellar defense so far, Blur.
Yeah, and that double damage boost there, really giving Prideful Shifters a lot to think about, and actually not giving them a lot of time to charge those ultimates that I said could be potentially impactful. Fact is,
Yeah.
the minute they poked their heads out, those heads were taken off because there was just so much damage coming their way. So whether they're able to build them up in this last fight is going to be absolutely crucial to whether they even get a chance to win this game going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. They are up in the series, so it'll be quite surprising to see them drop this map like this. But they're looking down the barrel of a loss here, but not if Lord of Terran has his way. He gets Cerulean Wolf. That's the carry dealt with. The Bob doing damage in the meanwhile. So you spoke about the ultis and how important they'll be, and we saw it pay off here. Here comes the other one. The Dragon Strike straight on through, picks up a double, and secures the second point capture for Prideful Shifters.
Yeah, and that Dragon Strike Halt combination, such a strong one, especially if your Baptiste has already used Immortality Field in the fight. And they were absolutely punished for that in that fight there. Looking onto this third point now, a couple of ults come online for Prideful Shifters, the double damage boost specifically. And it's a position now that they're in they have the momentum. They're going to be trying to move forward here and really get some momentum onto this third point and get the card right to the end here. Both teams will have time bank if they finish, but at least they might have a couple of seconds extra.
Yeah, they might indeed, and we spoke about yesterday how important that can be. Cerulean Wolf, though, opens the bank with the kill onto Lord of Terran, so the DPS a little bit lacking now, but both teams dropping DPSs go outside, hits the deck as well, and it's actually Little Clumsy the one getting the better value out of this. That Sigma is very low. If they can just put a tiny bit of damage on it, they should be able to take him down, and Fluffy does just that, gets rid of them. He's picked his target here, Little Clumsy. He wants that McCree on the right-hand side, but he won't find the angle, but he might not need it, as his tanks are doing a great job on the front line of getting the kills that they need. Transcendence committed as well for Fluffy, and that might buy Prideful Shifters enough time to pick up the last few straggling kills that they need, but there will be spawns coming in. Fluffy trying to get the hits onto the Moira. He gets taken down, and that could be key. If the spawns come through for Needful Feed, they might be able to buy themselves enough time to trickle this one back in their favor. The Dragon Strike going on through. I don't even know where that came from, because that's a blue Dragon Strike, and Lord of Terrans finds the kill. Cerulean Wolf doing some work. Oh no, Knoppies with the triple 2 boosts and the hopping ball. That's how you get the job done, and Needful Feed will take this one back in their favor.
And Knoppy's absolutely being an absolute thorn in Prideful Shifters' side in that last round there. He's shown that he's willing to go for these environmentals, go for that big stall play in this game. And if Lijiang Night Market wasn't enough of a warning of that, now on King's Row, he's done it again. Huge, taking both the tanks off the point and then finishing off the Ashe as well.
Beautiful play.
Looking at what we're going to be expecting for the rest of this game now, it's a position whereby, now Prideful Shifters, their confidence has been a bit shaken. They've been caught out a little bit by the kind of hard spam that Need for Feed decided to run into them. And at the end, it's not like they just weren't sure who to focus, who to look at. And they left Knoppies alive for way too long. He was on that point for probably a minute in total, just making it really difficult for them to capture. And when a minute was all they had on the clock, that was all he needed to do to win his team the game there.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke about Cerulean Wolf being the guy you've got to keep your eye on, but Knoppy's reminding us and reminding perhaps his own teammates, hey, you got to keep an eye on me or I'm going to get rid of you. So maybe making a play for that main roster starting slot on Ragequit Odyssey himself. And this is the place to do it. That's a great thing about these kinds of tournaments, Pride Cup, Talent Cup. It puts eyes on the guys that we don't know that much about and allows them to put in these kinds of performances. So well played to Knoppy, channeling his inner Toxin Socks there and getting the triple kill to save the team fight for his team. Really well played.
And looking at this next match here, Fluffy has actually rage quit the game. He's left the game, guys. He actually hasn't. The player he was replacing on the side of Prideful Shifters, Alibi, has come back into the roster now. And they will be coming onto Rialto now. So Fluffy, a known flex support, probably not too comfortable on the Lucio and Mercy. Probably we might see a little bit of Lucio out of Alibi now. Maybe a little bit of that little Reddit Lucio there, trying to get them off the bridge. On the side of Need for Feed, though, they're going to be looking for that. They're going to be looking for pulls and the boops and everything that's kept them off the bridge there, especially if they lean into that spam playstyle they've been looking at, looking so strong on King's Row already.
Yeah, absolutely. We're probably going to see some Pharah here as well. We saw how good Prideful Shifters were on Lijiang Tower Gardens. Lord of Terrans getting so much value out of the Pharah, and on this map you'd have to think that's going to be a pretty strong pick. And go outside. We've been speaking about him a little bit. He's got a very interesting play style, very aggressive play style, and I like to see the different picks like the Junkrat. So interested to see what kind of thing these teams are going to throw out here. Do you think we're going to see a kind of similar thing when it comes to the kinds of composition, like the dynamics of the compositions in terms of running the double shield, running the more aggressive comps, or do you think the teams are going to start switching it up and responding to each other a little bit more?
I think we should see. I think from the side of the Need for Feed, I think we see more of that bunker style play style. You lean on that McCree, who is quite strong on this first point, especially that Junkrat, who can excel really with these really tight chokes. I'm actually looking at the wrong sides. I thought they would be on defense. So they're actually going to be looking for the Genji and the Tracer to open up spaces. On the side of Prideful Shifters, however, we're seeing the Ashe and the McCree, the double hit scan again, but now with a double barrier, which surprises me a little bit. I thought we might have seen a little bit of Pharaoh with all this high cover on Rialto and all the potential that brings. But apparently not. Apparently this is what they're choosing to go with, and choosing not to take up the high ground in the early stage of the setup. From the side of Need for Feed, though, it's going to be a case of how long Knorpes and Cena can survive. Can they survive long enough for their DPS to make the opportunities to get the picks on Lord of Terran, Little Clumsy, and the backline of EQ, Zede, and Alibi that could really just open up this game for them?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Fairly unusual composition to see the double shield with the more divey style DPSs, so we'll have to see how well they make that work. That's a big dynamite, by the way, going through Cerulean Wolf on this Genji. You mentioned how it's about him having enough time to do what he needs to do, and that's not a good start. Asina takes an environmental death of his own. Oh, go outside, getting so close to killing the Mercy, not able to track her through the Valkyrie, or rather the flight, so he does eventually track her down and get the kill there. And with how the spawns work out on this map, it might be good. Just these kinds of slow pick, the slow push will end up favoring the attackers in this phase, I think, Blair.
And in this particular scenario, I'm personally looking for a little bit more discipline from the sort of Prideful Shifters. Pret's holding that position despite the DPS being behind him, and even the Sigma of Need for Feed being behind them for a long part of that fight, and then backing up when the payload is already moving through the choke. So it's a position that I want to see them play a little bit safer to give their DPS the time, because the time is what they need. In a long fight, you're favoring this Ashe, you're favoring this McCree, because they have more spam, they have more damage mitigation, so that's what you're looking to as a kind of win condition. They're just not getting that right now. Oof.
Go outside with a double pulse bomb kill. You can see Prideful Shifters are trying to get set up for the retake there, but they don't even get their legs cut out from under them there, as go outside with a beautiful pulse bomb just gets rid of any hope they had of getting aggressive in this team fight. So Need for Feed gonna keep the cart rolling here, and Prideful Shifters gonna have to think about how they approach things, but they do have some ultis coming up though.
And I'm surprised we're not seeing a Torbjorn considered here. As much as, you know, the character himself might not be as effective against the Genji and the Tracer, the turret is incredibly potent, and just poking them out and making sure they can't keep on those hard angles they keep taking. But maybe they're just holding onto the ult here, trying to see if they can win a fight with this before they decide to make any drastic composition. But halfway through point two, it's getting a bit late.
They're making so much progress here. They commit the Bob, they commit the Blade as well. Almost finds the kill onto that, but it wouldn't actually matter that much because his team's already dropping on the front line. Need for Feed, unstoppable on Rialto so far. They're doing such a good job of pushing their advantages and taking advantage of the momentum that they've gained, and they're going to get basically a free second point capture here. 5.5 minutes left on the clock, Blair. What's going on?
And that's Rialto. Rialto's an incredibly defensively favored map. The point one especially, we see more full holds than we do full pushes. So, you know, it's quite surprising to see a team moving through this point this fast, and it's a little bit of compositional mistakes from the side of Prideful Shifters that are making this happen, I think.
Yeah, could well be. Go outside, not able to get the value out of the pulse bomb on that occasion. You can't expect doubles every single time, and that ult charges pretty quickly, so you won't be too unhappy. Knorpes, though, did drop quite early. Coming into this next team fight, Ultimate's looking pretty good. Oh, needs to be careful. Little Clumsy, lucky not to meet his end there at the hands of the deflected flashbang, and yeah, Cerulean Wolf in a back out there, let his healing come up. Oh, Gravitic Flux coming out of Trigger Happy here. He's dropping low, needs to be careful, does end up living for now at least, but the amplification matrix comes down, and that spells the doom for the Prideful Shifters, and after a little bit of a slow start, an explosive follow-up for Need for Feed.
And just the same mistakes coming out of Prideful Shifters here again. They're not backing up when they get pressured. They're not taking up positions that assist their team in looking for these kills, and it's punishing them over and over again.
Yeah, it's not looking good here. They're at the back right against the wall here, and it looks like they're committing a lot of ultis here. They have found, or rather Pretz has hit the deck here. Knoppi's getting that first pick for his team. But okay, kills coming out of the way. He's spoken with the Torbjorn, and the turret doing all the heavy lifting here, picks up a triple. Lord of Terrans, that's what you gotta do. Give us the moves there on stream. We caught it finally. Beautiful work from Lord of Terrans there, and you, as you said, the Torbjorn ended up being a really, really significant pick.
Yeah, and you know, again, I speak about the compositional switches being a little bit too slow from the side of Prideful Shifters, and I'm surprised to see them still on this McCree, but the Torbjorn paying dividends now. Now that he's had a bit of time to get stabilize the fights, to build that ultimate. You know, he's on level terms now with the side of Need for Feed, and now, you know, coming into these fights, it's gonna be really hard to breach this with this Genji, and I think they might switch it after the Blade.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they can get value out of the Blade in the first time, though. Here it comes. Oh, that was a good hold combination. He is anti-healed. He gets stunned up, and he is taken down. Lord of Terrans, once again, coming in handy for his team there. Picks up a second, and yeah, looks like they're just going to push Need for Feed back once again. I'm sure we're going to see them switch off that Genji, like you say, Blur. But after 5 minutes, already 2.5 minutes off the clock here.
Yeah, actually, we're not seeing him switch off the Genji at present. He's out of spawn. He's looking to stage up for the next fight. So I'm a little bit surprised to see that. But you know, good position for Prideful Shifters to be in now. They've got the advantage of composition. They've got a couple of ults coming online. 4 ults, in fact, that are going to be online in this fight. Probably 4 on the side of Need for Feed as well. So what's important for Prideful Shifters here is to play with a little bit more discipline than they have been to this point.
Oh, that looks like it could be huge. Wow, I'm surprised they only found 1 there. I saw a lot of red skulls. I thought we were going to see a massacre. But no, just 420 going down. But that might be enough, especially if Lord of Terrans once again putting in the work for his team. Picks up a double with the Molten Core. Doesn't quite secure himself the hammer kill there. But he's going to keep trying for that. We know that is going to happen. So really well played to Prideful. Need for Feed, though, running a little bit out of steam, it seems like.
Yeah, I think at this point you need to be making serious compositional decisions here. They may be struggling a little bit to get this Genji into the fight here, struggling a little bit with this double flex support setup now. You know, maybe it's time to lean into something that can spam a little bit more, something that can really threaten this bunker. But that's Prideful Shifters has started to set up.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that, but they're choosing to run what they feel most comfortable on currently. Gravitic Flux available here for Trigger Happy. Should he choose to throw it down so far? Content with just throwing his Sigma balls around the place. That's a sentence I never ever want to say again. Yeah, and it looks like blue team once again sitting pretty. Come on, Terran, get a kill with that hammer. You suck. Kill on Knoppies. The Need for Feed. Really struggling to get in here, but they didn't use any ultis in that team fight.
And I think that's one of the clips that's going to stay in the local community for a long time from now. Terran, you suck. Look at that hammer kill, Terran. We want it. But coming into this fight, I don't know if it's possible. Need for Feed. 4 ults on the board, coming up on 5, and probably coming up on 6 because of how quickly Coalescence charges. And as the attacking team, you're hoping you can get a little bit more follow-up into these ults now.
Well, Gravitic Flux is a good way to start it off. Do they find any picks of that? He finds 1. That's a beautiful combination. The Deadeye with the Gravitic Flux, and they do get rid of the pesky Baptiste, making sure that lamp won't get any value. And yeah, moving forward here, Prideful Shifters in firm control. We were aghast at the time bank available for Need for Feed, but it's all but, you know, been... I'm choosing my words carefully here, but it's all but run out.
Yeah. In this situation, though, coming into a last fight scenario, Prideful Shifters possibly overcommitted to that last fight by including the nano in it as well, especially considering you're looking at an ult bank of 6 online for Need for Feed.
Yeah, they've just decided they're going to hold everything for this fight. That is not a good start. That hold might be exactly what they need, but they are finding the picks now. But they've committed everything! Every 6 ultis committed in this team fight. Literally nothing left in the bank for Need for Feed. They do manage to secure the team fight, but they won't cap this before the Prideful Shifters get back out, so they might regret committing all 6 ultimates at once there. Lord of Terrans is out on the Doomfist now, so they need to be careful of the insta-kill punches, and we see him here moving in, moving well with the halt there. Can they find the kills? Needs to get rid of the lamp, and they do just that, but no kills coming out just yet, and he is taken down. So, still a good position here for Need for Feed, as they're the ones picking up the kills, and they move on through. They could get this full cap, but when they entered third point with 5.5 minutes on on the clock, you're still going to be feeling pretty disappointed if you're a Need for Feed.
I think there's a couple of mistakes there in terms of not switching it up, not leaning into things that would have won them the fight outright. The fact that they end up leaning on 6 ultimates all at once to try and win them the fight isn't exactly what you'd call good ult economy. So coming into the rest of this match now, a full push, however, despite them leaning a little bit on something they shouldn't have and something that's strategically maybe not sound, the advantage they got on point 1 and 2 means that for the rest of this map, a full push is a really strong push on Rialto, no matter what the time bank. So, coming into the second stage of this game, you worry for Prideful Shifters here. If they'd hold it there, maybe they win it. But in this situation, it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult, and then even if they do win it, considering how quickly you saw Need for Feed pushing those first 2 points, you're not utterly convinced that they can bring it back from here.
No, still by no means an easy battle for Prideful Shifters here. They've still got a ton of work. Like you say, finishing this map is almost unusual. I'd go as far to say that you often see teams get stopped on that 3rd point like we just saw. So gonna have to see if Prideful Shifters can mount a good response attack. Torbjorn once again here for both teams. Actually, Godside gonna go for that. Little clumsy this time on the hit scan, the Widowmaker. So interesting to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, I think knowing the interaction and what the teams have been playing so far, choosing the Widowmaker off the bat, probably a better choice. Just get a little bit of an early pick advantage, and there we go, immediately panning out.
This really wanted to die, standing out in the open like that. He was just like, somebody get rid of me, please. I'm tired of living. He gets taken down. Little Clumsy takes advantage of that. It looked like he didn't even zoom in, but I'm guessing it was just the animation that we didn't catch. Little Clumsy finds another. So this Widow already paying off pretty well here as Need for Feed getting pushed back a little bit. We might see 2 very fast attacks, and we'll have to see if Need for Feed can slow down the momentum that Prideful Shifters are gaining here.
Yeah, a long way to that still, but a good first fights in breaking through this first choke from Prideful Shifters, and a nice ult bank starting to build up on their side as well. However, from the side of Need for Feed, we're seeing the Genji come out in place of the aforementioned Cerulean Wolf.
Yeah. Is struggling. I mean, he was struggling on the McCree, got taken down. Oh, 420, that's what we want to see. That Evo Classic getting nice and aggressive and taking down, gets himself a second there in the form of Alibi Zenyatta. So 420 finally taking matters into his own hands on the Lucio here. And, I spoke about momentum getting built up, and it just got stopped in its tracks.
Yeah, and that's the danger of this Rialto point 1. These first 2 chokes are so difficult to breach, and if you can hold them, already a minute and a half gone, and if you hold this fight now, it's going to be another slow, torturous fight to try and get them in this position to get forward. And if Prideful Shifters lose another fight here, you start to really worry about their chances on the map.
Yeah. Lord of Turns, though, going to try and make sure that doesn't happen. He's going to commit the Molten Core. It seems to be zoning quite effectively, and he actually does find the kill onto Smiley, the laden support going down there. That's quite unfortunate, and that's going to give it the space to the Prideful Shifters to start moving forward and picking up some kills. 420 in the backline there, going to buy his team a tiny bit more time, but ends up going down at the end of the day. That turret as well, not long for this world, and I don't think they're going to have much time. Okay, they're committing the ultimate here. Quite surprised by that, and the Molten Core from Godside does find a pick, and now Cerulean Wolf is back in with the blade and swinging away. He finds one. Can he find any more? Does he need to? I don't think he does. And Need for Feed, after a difficult start to that team fight, somehow managed to eke out a win courtesy of their DPS.
And in this situation now, you're starting to worry a little bit for the side of Prideful Shifters. A minute 30 left on the time back. A few ults in the bank, but a few good counter ults on the response for Need for Feed here that could be used to really start to clutch out this game and start to put them at a big advantage in the series, mental and in terms of the actual scoreboard.
Yeah, mental advantage, absolutely. Sorry. Really thinking about an advantage in the scoreboard. That's very important. Okay, Cena on the Sigma here, moving towards that ulti. Can he find any value? Gravitic Flux coming the other way first, though. He does drop low, but isn't taken down. But it doesn't seem to matter as Need for Feed are getting all the kills here. Not a lot of time left. Under a minute for Prideful Shifters to make something happen. And their outbank is looking a little bit suspicious here.
Yeah, they used they used a lot of their highest value ults in that fight. The Flux, Bongo, and the Window coming out in that fight, and not really finding very much. But coming into this next fight now, the Dragon Strike Online could see a little bit of value if they bait out that Immortality field as well as the Molten Core and the Nano could give them a little bit of a chance to actually put themselves in a strong position in this fight. But they have to start considering their flanks, considering their win conditions a little bit better, because they're just getting overwhelmed by just strange positioning from Need for Feed here. Unorthodox positioning is really punishing their mistakes.
Well, let's see. Oh no! Just as he commits the Dragon Strike, he doesn't end up getting it out. Knoppy's pile drives right on top of his head, getting rid of the Hanzo, and go outside with that Pulse Bomb. Might just have secured his team the victory here on Rialto. Need for Feed after a stellar start. The momentum got stopped a little bit, but they show that they are the stronger team on this map. No doubt about it.
Yeah, it's surprising for me. It's surprising for me that they're coming into these fights and they're playing almost too aggressively. They're getting onto the point and leaving 3 things behind them to just carve apart their backline. And we saw it in that last fight there, when the Dragon Strike was coming out, he wasn't even able to get the ultimate itself off before getting picked off by the opposing Tracer. And that's just not a situation you want to see going forward in this fight. They have to be in a position where a little bit of this this pressure is taken off them, and that has to be through compositional decision. That has to be through playstyle, and they have to be thinking about this going forward. What will give us that playstyle, that compositional security to be playing against what's really unorthodox in terms of positioning, in terms of compositional theory, and in terms of playstyle from the side of Need for Feed. Need for Feed running it to perfection, though, putting themselves in really good position to actually clutch out the series, because there's just questions on the board for Prideful Shifters right now, whereas there's a really strong sense of security on the side of Need for Feed from what we're seeing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Prideful Shifters, the ball is in their court. They're the ones who have to come up with something here, figure out how to deal with the unorthodox stuff the Need for Feed is throwing at them. They've also just taken a hit because they did lose Fluffy, and Fluffy is the captain of well, he's not the captain, Pritz is the captain, but Fluffy is one of the major decision makers for that Rage Quit Odyssey squad. So losing him, actually, they do take a big hit in that area, and especially when you consider that the rest of the team is pretty similar to that Rage Quit Odyssey squad in itself. So Alibi, no slouch in his own right, but Fluffy definitely a significant loss for Prideful Shifters. Next map is going to be our Assault map here. Who do you think Assault is going to favor here? I think Prideful Shifters do need to show up with something here and show that they can solve what Need for Feed are doing. But do you think Assault lends itself towards them, or do you think Need for Feed are sitting pretty here?
I think Assault is going to mean that, especially on the defense, there's going to be less opportunity for Prideful Shifters to make the mistakes we saw plague them in the first 2 points of Rialto. Because what we saw plaguing them is they just weren't adjusting to what was a dynamic win condition. The payload moving, the payload getting into positions that were really difficult for them to deal with, and them not choosing their engagement their engagement timings well. On Hanamura, the point never moves. It's always in the same place. So they know when they get on point, that's when you touch. You know, when they're engaging in a certain position, it's easier to kind of like look for those kind of win conditions. For Need for Feed here, I think on their defense, they're going to be looking for something very similar. They're going to be looking to kind of collapse on the bad scouting we've seen from Prideful Shifters and the really lax decision-making almost we've seen. You know, we need to see more, like, decisive action from Prideful Shifters here. We need to see them decide, okay, we need to deal with this, play slow. We need to deal with this, waste 30 seconds, kill it, and then we can win the fights cleanly. But we haven't seen that so long, and so far, and that's something that they really need to consider, especially since they'll be coming out on the defense and be giving themselves a win condition from the beginning of this match.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to talk about scouting. That's not something we think about a lot in Overwatch, you know, the idea, the strength that vision gives you. And that is something we need to be aware of as players, as teams, as classes in general, is how important that is to figure out what your opponent is doing and then come up with a solution for it. That said, compositions now are available to be seen. We're looking at the Ryan Zarya for Need for Feed versus the Ryan Diva for Prideful Shifters. May Torbjorn on the defense for the blue team. EQZA and Alibi going to be running the Moira and the Brigittes respectively. And go outside, going to be running this Widowmaker again. No, Zilkamzu opened up with it last time. Cerulean Wolf on the Genji, as we've seen him do for much of the series so far. Moira and the Mercy are the support. So, based on what you're seeing here, do you think Prideful Shifters have figured out what they need to do, or do you think it's going to come down to how they play?
I think they are choosing to play with a little bit more security here. They're choosing to turret a little bit more and bait out the aggression from the side of Need for Feed. But I'm still a little bit concerned. We've seen this Genji throughout the series, and they're still not choosing to run a defensive ult. And, you know, it's just a little bit of an odd choice for me here. So whether or not these really risky DPS can get the value, or this really safe, conservative style of play that will waste a lot of the time of Need for Feed will get the value remains to be seen. But we're hoping for a little bit of a shake-up in the fortunes so far, just for a little bit more of a kind of a more competitive match going forward here.
Yeah, absolutely. We always want to see long 5-map series. They need to get that pick onto the Zarya. They don't do that. Cerulean Wolf on the Genji once again. This is not a duel you ever want to take, but he might actually win it. But his team is definitely losing the rest of the team fight. This is pretty much 6-0. Yeah, Prideful Shifters team wiping Need for Feed there. You're going to be happy with that start.
And that's a fantastic first start for Prideful Shifters here. They're able to turtle on this choke point here, and really just deny entry. The Widowmaker's not going to be able to take up wide sidelines on anything other than Terran Lord, who even himself is taking up sidelines that are difficult to bridge for this team, and the rest of the team has to push into this Mei and this Torbjorn that is incredibly hard to push.
Yeah, as you say that the Blizzard goes down, the Shadow goes down the other way though, and might buy enough time for Need for Feed to get the damage through, but it doesn't look good for the team in blue, or team in red, sorry, as they lose half of their players in the doorway. And yeah, as you spoke about, this is a very, very difficult composition to push into with their composition.
Yeah, just looking at the entry choke here, Hanamura Point 1 is known for its really hard to breach door. There's only one place you can enter the point, and, you know, holding this door has always been central to holding Point 1. So, kind of finding a way around that, they're thinking, you know, maybe the Huns are a little bit more of a mid-range projectile rather than the long-range hit scan of the Widowmaker might be better for us here.
Oh, okay. Trigger Happy does find an opening pick there onto Smiley. Actually flew over. Oh, great response on a Prideful Shifter there, getting nice and aggressive and making sure they take advantage of the early pick that the D.Va secured for them. So, Prideful Shifters looking a bit like a different team here, Blair.
Yeah, and it's a really good discipline from them so far to really consider how they use their abilities, how they use their ultimates, and put themselves in a position to go forward here. But the Symmetra actually coming out from the side of Need for Feed now. They're going to be going straight to point. They're like, okay, we're sick of being denied entry to this point. Let's go all the way to the end. Let's go straight from the beginning, straight from the difficult to breach area, right to the end where we might be able to actually just outvalue them on point.
Yeah, it looks like that's what they're trying to do. Trigger Happy, though, that's a bad start for Need for Feed taken down. Shadow committed here for the blue team. Pretz looking to find value out of that. He doesn't find any kills himself, but he does secure enough space for his team to get the kills to charge on through. Doesn't find what he's looking for, but it shouldn't matter. Oh, okay. Shadow actually committed here out of Knoppies, and I think he's going to regret that when he looks back at this match, because that team fight was not on for Need for Feed.
Yeah, and looking at what actually happened for the side of Need for Feed in that team fight, you know, you're thinking that the Symmetra is a nice alternative to that, but it's often an entry comp. It's the first comp you play, because you don't have to worry about things like the Molten Core coming out, things like potentially a May Freeze or a Brig Rally that could make being on point actually more dangerous than being off it. So it's something that you have to consider, that they maybe should be considering also a little bit more carefully going forward.
Oh, committing the Dragon Blade here and the Graviton Surge. Trigger Happy finds Cerulean Wolf, make sure he doesn't get any value out of his ulti. Well, I mean, he didn't get 2 kills, so let's slow down there. But still, getting rid of him before he can do any more damage. This team fight, though, looking pretty good for the blue team. They've got the numbers advantage, but they're under a lot of pressure here, and they did have the Blizzard in the bank. So Little Clumsy going to commit that and try and get this kill onto Smiley. Not able to find it yet, but he might be buying his team enough time for the respawns to come in. Respawns, though, favor the attacking team, and we see that coming into effect now as the respawns coming through for the red team mean they are able to clean things up on the point. With Trigger Happy going down, finally, Need for Feed managed to secure themselves the first point capture.
And it's something similar to what we saw on the last point of Rialto, where they had a very static win condition because it was a very short amount of space, and you know, they just stacked up their ult and used them. And on 2CP, that's a very, very well noted strategy. Yeah. And on the side of Prideful Shifters, maybe you need to be starting to consider that it's time for a Lucio, it's time for a Zen. Something can really start to say, okay, when you grab and blade, we're just going to press Q and outvalue both of those things instantaneously.
Yeah, a little clumsy is back on this Hanzo here, as we can see, and so far, so good as he does pick off guard side on the Doomfist. He's going to look to get this Moira. Doesn't want to lose this duel. He doesn't want to take this duel. Is he going to get out? He does just barely, but he needs to get healed up. He is finally assisted, and Lord of Turrets tired once again doing the heavy lifting here, getting rid of the enemy main support, or flex support rather. So yeah, unfortunately, Needful Feed won't be able to carry the momentum one through to a quick cap, but Prideful Shifters looking good in the ultimate department.
Yeah, in this situation here, again, you've been seeing very good patient ultimate usage from them in this game so far, and winning what was effectively a neutral fight, given the hard commitment of Need for Feed in the last point on the last fight of point A. You know, you think that they are able to build up ults quite nicely and put themselves in a position to really be able to hold for a few fights here.
Speaking of ultimates, Minefield dropped here for Knorpis, looking to find some value, but it looks like it's just going to be spaced in now for now. Lots of space now happening though. As you can see, the Molten Core also committed for Terranor, but again, the best player on the team, but Cena picks up a double and a little bit extra there in the form of the real carry, the Torbjorn turret. Pretz does have his ultimate here. Nice split out of Needful Feed, means he won't find as much value as he wants. As Trigger Happy moves his way back through with his own self-destruct. Is he going to find as much value as Cena just did, as is so typical of Trigger Happy? Looks like he won't even need to, as the cleanup crew finally comes through. Jeez, that was a horrible sentence to try and say. And it looks like they should be able to secure themselves another defense here. Only a minute left on the clock for Needful Feed to make something happen.
Looking at how that fight transpired there, it's a kind of exercise in the ultimate usage. Ult after ult after ult coming out of Need for Feed here, and Prideful Shifters matching that to an extent, but matching it in a way that's a little bit more patient, a little bit more deliberate, a little bit more like considered in its sequencing and how they want to use it. And they still have 2 online, and they still have another 3 that should be up in this fight. So again, Ult Bank heavily favors them coming into a last fight, one that's really, really difficult for the side of Need for Feed to breach.
Well, that looked like it was going to be quite a good Hanzo ulti, but he doesn't end up finding anything with it. The Dragon Strike not able to find the value on this occasion, but that's not a problem. Oh, this might be pretty significant though. Doesn't find anything again. So 2 ultis committed for not much here. 18 seconds left on the clock. Oh, we never spoke about the Echo, but the Duplicate not finding any value on that occasion. EQZA actually going to take guard side down in its entirety. In fact, gets both DPS here. Who's the carry now? It's not a Torbjorn turret anymore. It's EQZA who picks up his third of the team fight, and that's going to secure a 2nd point defense for Prideful Shifters.
And that's a really good play there from the side of Prideful Shifters there. This is a very winnable game for them now. This is a game you're almost expecting. You know,
I'd go as much to say that.
You rarely see a 0.2 of Hanamura held with such kind of confidence and such strength. So coming into this first point of Hanamura here, you're expecting that the weakness that's plagued them through the entire Rialto game was things coming up behind them, things being in positions that they couldn't expect. And you know, this Hanamura points 1, it lends itself to that. It lends itself to, even if the tanks start to back up towards point, you don't know if there's going to be a Tracer behind you. You don't know if there's going to be Genji on your Ana. And that's something they have to be very kind of cognizant of going forward here. Make sure that they don't fall into the same traps that really punished them in that first game or that previous map, and put themselves into a position where they're going to be able to win this game, being able to put themselves in level terms in the series and go on to a map 5, which we as closely contested as the rest of the series has been so far.
Yeah, absolutely. That said, though, we did see on Rialto Needful Feed with a great start to their push, and not able to quite finish it out with that same kind of strength. But their defense, on the other hand, looked absolutely perfect right from the start. So still a tough ask for Prideful Shifters to push their way on through. Compositionally here, quite a similar look from both of these teams. DPS-wise, it's going to be the Pharah. We haven't seen that since the start. Lord of Terrence doing a good job on that hero on Legion Tau, so should be valuable. And a defensive Symmetra here. This is something we really don't see when not paired with a Bastion usually.
Yeah, and looking at this here, I'm really thinking the Pharah is going to be crucial to this. If the Pharah can get value, I see this being quite a simple fight for the side of Prideful Shifters here. They've got nothing to deal with her whatsoever.
Yeah.
The only thing that can potentially really challenge the Pharah is Smiley on that Baptiste, and even then, it's a committing resources that shouldn't be committed into a fight that you don't want to be leaning into.
Yeah, speaking of committing resources, though, Little Clumsy getting a little bit too aggressive there on the front line, trying to deal with the Junkrat, ends up losing that one rather expectedly, it has to be said, and putting his team in a difficult position. What was that? Terran Lord with the insta charge on his ulti. Not sure where he was getting that kind of damage, but Cerulean Wolf, speaking of damage, he's the one doing all the damage. Does he find the Mercy before she gets the res? He does not, but he does end up finding her anyway. Coming back in here. This turret is just, oh, Pritz, my dude. He gets the kill, bro. Is it bad? I could. I don't know. If his team wins a team fight, then it was totally worth. And so far, it's looking like they're gonna do just that. Prideful Shifters putting themselves in a position where they cannot lose the map.
That's just a classic Pretz moment there. But you know, Need for Feed actually coming back into here.
Yeah.
It might be Pretz's folly falling off the map, where Prideful Shifters still have a really good chance to win this fight, especially with the supports of EQZA getting taken out of this fight very early on.
Yeah, they are coming back, and the Pretz has returned, so I don't think it's too much of a big deal, that little movement off the map. And Alibi's going to bring EQZA back into the mix. So the healing, no, EQZA, we need you! The Coalescence moved off the side of the map, no hope of getting back, but Lord of Terran is backed up by the Mercy of Alibi, so he's got a lot of space to do damage and is using that to his advantage now. Trigger Happy throws the bomb through. Name a more iconic duo, Trigger Happy and getting killed with the self-destruct. He finds Smiley, Pritz finds his opposite number, Cena gonna hit the deck here, and it looks like they have just enough in the tank to Prideful Shifters to push back a very risky defense. But this teleporter, man, it's making all the difference. The amount of time they need to get back onto the point is so much less because they have that teleporter to close the distance. But oh, Godside dropping so low, he needs to touch point. He does get on, and they're buying so much time, buying space, and Godside gets the kill onto Pret somehow. But Lord of Terrans with that ultimate is going to be putting the damage down. Cerulean Wolf, yeah, okay, they've made the call, not committing anymore. They're going to go for the draw.
And I think the decision from Press there to charge off the map early in that fight, as much as it got value early in that fight.
The decision to charge off the map, let's slow down.
Yeah. The decision to charge off the map was less of a value trade at the end of the day, and more of something that actually put his team in a lot of jeopardy when the recontest came in from the side of Need for Feed. That fight went on for far longer than they would have wanted to, and coming into the second point now, they're going to have far fewer ultimates than they would have had in the ideal situation.
Oh, wow, little clumsy. Finding the pick he needed to there, getting go outside. Terranor did drop, but he will be brought back here by Alibi. There's a Genji blade for little clumsy. That's careful not to go down. He does end up going down. Alibi avenges him straight away with the pistol. It's pretty strong, you know. Mercy putting in the damage. He needs to be helping Terranor do the damage, so he's not giving him any assistance here. He's all by himself, and he gets taken down by a Lucio. Alibi, that's what happens when you don't back your Pharaoh out. And unfortunately, that means Need for Feed are going to stabilize here. Sure, EQZA manages to get a kill, but that's not going to be the start of something special, as Prideful Shifters going to have to approach this one another time.
Yeah, and I think, again, we're seeing the consequences of that long first point stall there, in that a lot of the ultimates that Prideful Shifters would have wanted to have online weren't online here. Coming into this next fight, though, 4 in the bank versus the defensive ult in the window from Need for Feed, it could be, if they're able to get into this fight and take out the McCree and the Wrecking Ball quickly, it could be a really good situation that gives them the tick they need to win this game. If not, however, it's going to be a long drawn out fight again, and you know, with the big spawn advantage, you always back the defensive team in that long drawn out fight.
Oh, sorry for that. That was a beautiful combination. The tanks throwing the ultis together, and they do find a couple, and they commit Little Clumsy's blade as well. He doesn't even have any targets. The sound barrier coming out so late. So many heroes already down. They've got such a dearth of ultimates on the side of Prideful Shifters, and they use that to brute force their way to another map win.
And this has been a fantastic game so far, and I think the stylistic difference is really shown between the two teams here. Sequencing of ultimates and the way they're used has been a really relevant point within this game for Prideful Shifters so far. You know, we saw it on their defense where they were able to use just discipline and good usage to get through.
Sorry, that play of the game was just
questionable. Yeah, we saw the good sequencing and good ultimate usage was able to get them through that defense and give them a really good opportunity to win that game. But on the attack there, although they had 4 ultimates online and they used them all, they used them in such a sequence that they got value out of each one individually and they didn't overlap them too much. So that when the contest started to come back in, when the minefield came out, when the beat came out, they were able to add value it with the barrage. They were able to add value it with the with the coalescence there and really just put themselves in a position that they won the map deservedly and emphatically in that last fight.
Yeah, it's a complete turnaround for what we saw on Rialto. What do you think the difference was there between Prideful Shifters on Rialto versus Prideful Shifters on Hanamura? Or do you think it was more down to what Need for Feed were doing?
I think we're looking at the static win conditions being something that Prideful Shifters are able to play much more reliably around. We've seen, they struggle to re-engage payloads, both on King's Row, where they gave up a lot of space and a lot of time on streets, and on Rialto, where they gave up 5.5 minutes in the first 2 points, and then ended up winning in that last little static area, really.
Yeah.
Whereas on the Lijiang Tower map, which they won, and on the Hanamura map, which they have also won quite convincingly, they've had 2 static points to attack. They've had 2 static points to defend, and it's been something they've been able to really bridge a lot easier. They've been able to play a lot more defensively. They've been able to play a lot more patiently, use their ults with a lot more discipline, and that's been the major difference between these two teams. When Need for Speed is concerned, when they can't cause chaos in the back line of Prideful Shifter, when they can't cause a little bit of disruption, a little bit of impatience, that's when they start to struggle. Because, in a team for team fights challenge where Prideful Shifters is playing more consistent composition, Prideful Shifters are winning the fights. But in a team fight situation where someone's lagging behind and they get killed by a tracer, that's an advantage you don't want to be giving up. And going into Busan, a control map, static points, easy, straightforward win condition. That's what you're going to be looking at and seeing from the side of Prideful Shifters, that I really think that Need for Feed need to play a little bit more together, a little bit more consistently, and a little bit smarter as a team, as an entity, to really challenge the really good static play we've seen from Prideful Shifters so far.
Yeah. And Prideful Shifters looked so dominant, like you mentioned, on Lijiang Tower. Other than the map they lost, which they did in quite a close affair, the 2 maps they won, they absolutely stomped those maps. So they're sitting pretty here, I think, coming into the last map, which will be Busan, as you mentioned. Now, a lot going on this map, and we'll have to wait and see what the first point will be. Do you think any of these maps are going to favor Knoppies and the crew, or do you think we're looking down the barrel of an easy 2-0 victory for Prideful Shifters here?
I think Sanctuary, if any of these maps, will favor Need for Feed a lot. Like the large open space and the flanking routes that enable that map mean that the Tracer and Genji that plagued the backline of Prideful Shifters on Rialto and King's Row respectively will have a lot more space to excel. And if they can pull off something similar to what they did on Lijiang Control Center with that Junkrat's playstyle on Mecha Base here, we might be able to see them really take a little bit of an advantage early on here and put Prideful Shifters on the back foot. But what we're seeing here instead is we're seeing that Genji Tracer. They're trying to take an advantage of that kind of nonsense in the backline very early on in this game. Whereas Prideful Shifters, they're playing a very hard, very aggressive comp. They're going to try and roll through Knoppies and Cena and really put themselves in a very early advantage that Alibi and EQ ZA aren't really threatened before the fight really reaches its breaking point.
Yeah, this could be a really difficult game for Knoppies and Cena on the tanks against what Prideful Shifters are throwing at them. So let's see how they stand up to that. Look at this, just getting nice and aggressive here. But Lord of Terran's getting too aggressive and taken down on the front line. And Godside manages to find his way around and take care of Alibi. That gives space for Knoppies to just wander on forward now. No shield needed, just going to swing away and take some heads down with the axe. And turn for the May here and secure themselves a first point cap on the side of Need for Feed.
Switch is already coming out for the side of Prideful Shifters here. They switched the Reaper to the Torbjorn here, and they've switched the Anna to the Moira. They are going to be saying, okay, we don't want things that can be punished by flankers, and we want to punish flankers. So it's a good compositional switch up for them. Very nice, very consistent. Now they just have to make it count.
Oh, Shadow's going both ways, and Spretz, who gets the much better value out of his ultimate here, as Prideful Shifters now going to move their way through onto the point. That's a pulse bomb onto the shield of Pretz. He's going to be totally fine with that, because he doesn't need it for another minute at least, so he's going to be able to let that one charge back up. Knoppies is back in here on the ball. Did that boop happen? Yes, it did. Alibi now going to hit the deck and taste the salty sea as he gets booped into the ocean, and that means that Prideful Shifters are on the back foot once again. Remember, the clock is ticking up here for Need for Feed, so if they want to lose slowly, they're totally happy with that, and they might not lose at all Sound barrier committed here by EQZA. Gonna try and give his team the onus to move on through, and the Graviton Surge gonna be a big part of helping Prideful Shifters win this team fight out. But it's not done just yet. A few pesky stragglers left on the point, but 60% on the clock before the point gets switched.
An interesting decision from Knoppies here to come out on the Wrecking Ball instead of the Reinhardt here. They're leaning hard into that disruption playstyle, and maybe they're thinking similarly to how they've taken a couple of points from Prideful Shifters here. All we have to do is make sure we stack up our ultimates for a big fight, and then we can hold it. You know, and that's what they seem to be doing. They're poking out a little bit here, a little bit there, and they've already got nearly 4 ults online, and leaning on that to go into the next few fights could be strong for them.
Oh, that Maywall's key to keeping the tanks away from the rest of the team. Molten Core committed as well by Lord of Terran. Oh, but that's a double kill with the mines. Can Terran Lord find the pick on the Tracer? No, he can't. Go outside, has his number, and now Knoppy's free to reign supreme here on the point. But Pretz gonna make sure he doesn't get the mobility he wants to. Gonna charge on through, but the adaptive shield gonna keep Knoppy's healthy as a thing that is very healthy. Go outside, gonna secure himself a kill with that pulse bomb. And although 420, or rather the May here, does have the Blizzard, not gonna be able to use it in a way that is valuable, at least for this team fight.
And it's all gonna come down to the recontest here. Knoppy is able to sow a lot of confusion to the backline of Prideful Shifters in that previous team fight, but it's really hard for him to do that when they're kind of playing flat back against a wall. So coming to this next team fight here, whether he can maintain that consistency and help his team avoid getting picked here will be very crucial in making sure that his team are able to win this fight.
Yeah, absolutely key. Cerulean Wolf with the blade, gonna look to get aggressive. Knoppy's just dropping, how important it was. That Graviton Surge yeeted across the map, finds what it's looking for, but there's one in the other direction now, and this one's followed up by a blade. Can he find the kills he needs to? He gets taken down, but he might just have done enough to secure his team a little bit of space. Let's go outside. Lift up. That was gorgeous. Go outside. The 2XS Tracer player with a beautiful play to secure Needful Feed the first point. You spoke about Sanctuary being a favorite map for them, but they just took down Maker Base pretty comfortably.
I was actually quite surprised to see them get so much value out of these flanking DPS and these very claustrophobic spaces. But Prideful Shifters, they haven't learned their lesson. They haven't decided to play slow, play as a unit, play defensive. And they're really getting caught out by this Tracer behind them, by this Genji behind them. And now by this Wrecking Ball behind them as well. Every single team fight. And coming into Sanctuary now, this is the map I originally favored Need for Feed onto here. And although we're seeing mirrored dive comps here, or slightly mirrored dive comps, it's more of a disruption comp from the side of Need for Feed here. You know, it's a playstyle that's really been favored for Need for Feed throughout this game. And if Prideful Shifters can't get their act together now, it's over for them. They're going into that playoff at 9 o'clock, seeing if they can even qualify at this point.
Yeah, they will be facing Grant Hindenburgs no matter what happens here, but they'd love to go into that one pretty much securing their slot in the semifinals and not have to fight for their life. But if they don't win this map, that is the position they will be in. Cerulean Wolf is on the flank here, trying to get 420, I think it is, no, sorry, EQZA on the Lucio, and he actually does just that with the help of 420's whip shot. So looking pretty good in terms of starts for Need for Feed, and they find another one and another after that. So they're going to barrel on through and look to secure themselves a first point capture. We spoke about how we felt they would be strong, or Prideful Shifters rather would be strong on this map type, but it seems like Need for Feed have found that extra gear.
Yeah, and looking at how that fight is panning out here, even though they're on a dive comp and they shouldn't be as vulnerable to this disruption playstyle, they're getting so split up, they're not shooting the same things, and they're getting punished over and over again. Just as Lord of Terrans has been punished again here.
He's struggling to play into this Brigitte, I think, and that's the counter. You know, that hero basically removed Tracer from the game for a long time. They're moving in here, though, are Need for Feed and Prideful Shifters. But Prideful Shifters, they've lost so many heroes already. They really need to back out and regroup and give themselves an opportunity for a proper fight here as the clock ticks up to 40%.
And again, they're leaning into a playstyle that's very, very favored towards the Need for Feed team here. And again, the ults favor Need for Feed, the time bank favors Need for Feed, and now, you know, even more, the ults economy is in the favor of Need for Feed, as they've now swapped into this Ryan Diva and onto an Ana as well, and given up a lot of the advantages they would have had.
Yeah, the Ana on 0% and Little Comps is on 100% of his ulti, so won't have the Nano boost to back him up should he choose to commit the blade here. Need for feed, Knoppis. Oh yeah, he commits the ulti here. I'm not quite sure where. The blade. Oh, taking a nap, Cerulean Wolf. They could have used him. Actually, what am I talking about? They don't need him. Knoppis putting in the damage on the front line here, and the rest of the team has more than enough in the tank to secure a couple of kills on Prideful Shifters. Backs against the wall now, Blur. They have to pull something special out.
Yeah, they have to use this. They have to get something with this blade, and no defensive ult on the side of Need for Feed. So it's everything is in his favor to try and get this off, but they have to get it off because it's the only asset they have right now, and they're gonna have to get more than Cerulean Wolf can get with his.
Oh, he goes onto the side here. He's looking for the target. He's identified the Brigitte, but he can't find anything. This is the opposite of value. This is anti-value, slashing away at the air. And meanwhile, on the other side, feast your eyes on what real value is. No, that's not real value. That was also not real value ultimate, but it doesn't matter because Need for Feed, the rest of the team are cleaning up perfectly. Lord of Terrans might get a couple of kills. Cena's decided he's going to shoot the floor because they don't need him in the team fight, and he's just going to waddle his way back on in and start wet noodling the Lucio. They do need to deal with this Lucio as the respawn starts to come through. He is going down, but now we've got balls swinging all over the place. This is a little bit not safe for work, ladies and gentlemen, but hopefully they can secure themselves the kills here on Need for Feed so they can push on through. Tanks coming back now, so maybe Prideful Shifters might have something a little bit extra to give here, but kills all red in the kill feed, and that's going to make it tough. That's a stick though. It sounded like a stick, but it didn't find any kills with it, unfortunately. And Terran Lord going down might just spell the end of Prideful Shifters' match here. They're going to have to go up against the Grant Hindenburgs to try and secure themselves a spot in our semifinals. Need for Feed, though. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's Need for Feed securing their spot into the semi-final stage of the Pride Cup now. And again, we're seeing really good play out of them, really good disruption play out of them. Really, really fond of the way they adapted this Wrecking Ball into their composition here to absolutely double down on this disruption playstyle that was suiting their strength so well. Going into the next match for the Prideful Shifters now, though, you're thinking this is their weakness. If they can't deal with the disruption and the high pressure that these teams are providing them, they're going to be in a situation where they're not able to account for the flankers. And if you're not able to account for flankers, it doesn't matter how much they outplay on the front line. It doesn't matter how much healing they do. They're gonna be losing a pick or two every single fight. And just that disadvantage, whether you're the better players or not, it's enough. And that's something you really have to deal with as a team here. Yes, they're a team that hasn't played a lot together by the nature of this. Tournament, and the calling structure might be a bit different for the segmented groups of Kretz, Trigger, and Terran, and Clumsy and EQ that they would have been expecting. But they have to be tracking their flanks better. They have to be tracking their tempo better, because that's what lost them this game. Is the fact that they looked like they had the composition, they looked like they had the ultimates, they looked like they had the control of the map in a lot of stages, but they just didn't track what was behind them, what was on their flank, what was on their supports, and that was really punishing. And they didn't track those interactions well, and that was eventually what gave Need for Feed the tools to pick that apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Need for Feed, though, credit to them as well, executing their composition perfectly, forcing Prideful Shifters to come up with something, and Prideful Shifters just never did. Before we move on to our next map, we've got a couple of hours, our next match, sorry, and we've got a player of the match to get to. So Blur, who was a standout performer from you?
I think if we're looking at the teams here, we have to give great credit to the DPS of Need for Feed here, but also their tanks for making those compositions work. And especially, I mean, the games they really excelled in, we saw a lot of really great work from Knoppis in particular. He played a really, really strong map on King's Row. He gave us the play that actually won them that map convincingly. He played a very, very good map on this last map here, adapting his playstyle to give him that Wrecking Ball play that effectively it carved apart Prideful Shifters. And even on Lijiang Tower, where his team were up against it a lot, he was the one coming out with that play of the game. He was the one coming out on top in a lot of fights, even if his team were losing. So, I think Knoppis has to be our player of the match here, with a big provision that his DPS played exceptionally well today, and were able to make use of the space he provided them.
Yeah, absolutely. God side, Cerulean Wolf did a really good job of making sure that they took advantage of what Knopis was able to do. But Knopis, in his own right, putting himself out there, being the carry for this team when he needed to be. On the other side, of course, shout out to Terran Lord, I think, performed really, really well on the Torbjorn and the Pharah specifically. Little clumsy as well, no slouch. And Pretz on the main tank, always a standout performer for Odyssey. So he did well as well today. But I agree with you 100%. Knopis will be our player of the match here, so we'll get him in for an interview.
Yes.
And do we have any other results from other matches today? Team 3, Team 5. Oh, who are those teams? Okay, so 7-11.
Yeah, taking a clean 3-0 against Daddy's Home, which should put Daddy's Home out of the tournament at this stage. And conversely, the Grant Hindenburg's taking a 3-0 win against Crocs Without Socks. So this last match at 9 p.m. is going to be absolutely crucially important for deciding who goes through to the semi-finals tomorrow.
I think we were expecting Crocs Without Socks to take a 3-0 loss to Grant Hindenburg's there, so it sets us up perfectly for our last match of the evening, like you say. We're still trying to get Alvin in here. Not Alvin, sorry, the guy.
Knuffies. Elvin on the brain.
Well played, Mr. Knoppies, and congratulations for taking this match.
Thank you so much. It was a very fun game. It was a very hard game though. The other team played really well.
Yeah,
Oh.
looked very fun and very hard, but those are the best kinds of games. The kinds of games you have to work very hard. So how do you feel after winning that game? What's the kind of energy in the team? You guys must be feeling good.
I know, it's really good. It's very good. I feel like we really bonded well closer to the end there. Yeah, and I was too scared to play Ryan against Pretz. for the fear of getting shattered. I couldn't live that one
That's
down.
why you switched to the wrecking ball. After
Yeah, I decided I'm just gonna stay ball and see what I can do there.
Awesome.
I mean, it ended up working really nicely for your team, playing that wrecking ball, that really hard disruption style that Prideful shifters were really struggling to deal with a lot of the game. Even when you were playing a bunker with those unorthodox DPS and getting in behind and getting the picks and getting the value for a lot of that game, Prideful shifters seem to not have that answer to your DPS and your playstyle throughout that. Was the ball like a doubling down of that type of playstyle, would you say? Or was it more of just an unconscious, oh, I don't want to get shattered by Pretz?
I mean, yeah, in a way, I was I was trying to be as impactful as possible, and I didn't feel like my Ryan was going to be as impactful as something like a ball. And even though we had unorthodox picks in terms of DPS, they were doing really well in shutting down the enemy's DPS in a way. They were struggling, and even though the enemies played really well, I feel like we just denied the space a little bit better and created a lot of space with our unorthodox ball diva. It created a lot of space for our team to play around.
Awesome. Talk to me a little bit about Rialto. You guys got steamrolled on the first 2 points and then managed to put a really good push through, or rather, a really good defense for that third point. 5.5 minutes, actually. You took off the clock there, so that was really well played. And then you couldn't manage to take that first point. What was going through your guys' head after that match? What was the energy in the team like?
Other way around, I think.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Oh no, you guys smashed. Sorry.
No, you smashed through those first 2 points.
Same question, but Hanamura this time.
Oh, Hanamura, where we were stuck on the first point. It was slightly frustrating. We couldn't seem to get through and to actually move past the choke points. We seemed to be stuck, but I feel like we did well in the end to get through there. And I mean, unfortunately, all the enemies had to do is just build up ults, and they knew that we had to use our ults to take the points, so we didn't have many to counteract with when they did ult. So it was difficult, but you can't win them all, I suppose. And they're very good at setting up somewhere and defending us. Especially with that Torbjorn, I must say.
Yeah, Terran did a really good job. Any more from you, Blo?
Yeah. One of the smaller meta narratives of this game, though, has to be the Odyssey duel between you and your 3 teammates on the other team. And in fact, a former teammate from this tournament, with Fluffy coming into sub for you early in the game. Can you talk us through a little bit of the rivalry and how Fluffy betraying your team in that type of way affected you going into this game?
I must say, we were embracing Fluffy as a part of our team. You know, the Need for Feed team. He was really a part of our DPS lineup. But then turns out we started playing against him, and we saw it's unfortunate, but and it's always nice to play against your own team. I suppose it's
When
nice
you win,
to.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, if we lost, maybe it wouldn't have been so good. But no, it was really fun to play against them, and to see the synergy that was on the enemy team, and I mean the synergy that we have built on our team as well. It was really good.
Well played to you guys. One thing we didn't actually mention throughout the broadcast is that Overclocked actually has 2 members on each team, so another rivalry in that form. But no more questions from our side, I think. Thank you so much, and congratulations again, Mr. Knoppies. If we want to find out what you're doing, where can we find you on the internet?
Okay, so on Instagram, it's original_Kwacha, but I do not have any other social. Oh no, Twitter on Knoppies999 or the handle.
There you go.
Yes.
That's where you can keep up with him. Blur, we're going to hear from you in a little bit as well, but why don't you give us your socials anyway?
I am Blur_ZA on Twitter. Or _RSA. Wow, I don't even know my own Twitter handle.
Well, it's very complicated, it's all of seven characters. We do of course have Peach on the sticks here doing our production, so at the Peach today on Twitch and on Twitter, give him a follow and a like and a whatever. I don't know what you do on social media these days. My name has been Sun Phoenix at Sun Phoenix on Twitter, SUNPHEONYX. You can follow me there for things. Blur and I will be back in an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours and 45 minutes at 9. You guys better tune in, because that match is going to be very important. The winner of that match will be the second team that qualifies along with Need for Feed to the semifinals tomorrow. We'll also keep you up to date on what's happening in Group A when that rolls around, so be sure to tune in. We'll see you then.
Demi?
Yes, Haley?
I've got the strangest story to tell.
So do I.
I was starving to death
You're kidding?
and went down the street
Come on, tell me.
when suddenly something happens at the sound of a cash register.
Ooh la la.
I did not know if I could fit him in my basket. No hearty coupon, but I knew I had to bag it. Then suddenly, right between the cheese and the sour, there he was standing round in front of the bakery floor. I bought my latest boyfriend at the supermarket. No label or no wrap, I snatched him up like chocolate. I like to say that I'm not easily amused, but shopping that way something I just can't refuse. The gentleman agreed. A testing period scheme. No VAT, no cashback trick, he was alright for me. But after he got used, he made me quite confused. Ain't no customer service for that special kind of good.
She found her latest boyfriend down at the supermarket. I prefer to connect straight into the internet. They can deliver to your home quite the same. And you can ship him back if you can feel no flame.
I bought my latest boyfriend down at the supermarket. No label or no wrap, I snatched him up like chocolate. I like to say that I'm not easily amused, but shopping that way something I just can't refuse.
The gentleman agreed. A testing period scheme. No VAT, no cashback trick. He was alright for me. But after he got used, he made me quite confused. And no customer service for that special kind of goods. Hey, Haley? I've also got something to tell you.
Go on.
No, I'm not sure I can.
Oh, come on, don't tease me.
It's a naughty story.
Oh, you wouldn't. I bought my latest boyfriend down in the supermarket. No label or no wrap, I snatched him up like chocolate. I like to say that I'm not easily amused, but shopping that way something I just can't refuse.